This is the start of my new video tutorial series called Creating a Phaser Isometric Tile-Based Game with Angular. I love the isometric perspective. I used to love playing games like Jagged Alliance 2 and Civilization, and I've been really into the Phaser game engine lately, along with Angular development. So I figured, I'd try a video series where I start at the bare minimum of creating a project with Angular, setting up Phaser, and then maybe over time, using the tiled map editor to actually create the tile map so that we can, place down grass and water and then dynamically load that into our Phaser game so that we can just render a green space and have, tiles be selectable, maybe place down a house or some units and so forth. And then if I'm feeling ambitious, maybe we'll add a multiplayer aspect to it where, you take turns against another person, they move their units and, you move your unit and vice versa. So this is the start of this bigger series. If this is interesting to you, please hit subscribe. You'll be notified of, whenever I create these videos, who knows when, hopefully in a couple weeks. So yeah, stay tuned. So let's get started. To start, we're going to create a brand new Angular application. To do this, we just type ng new and then the name of the Angular project which we want to create. In this case, it'll be called Angular Phaser Tiled Isometric. We'll select yes for routing and we'll pick CSS. It's going to take a little bit of time to install the dependencies, so we'll come back once it's done. After the packages install, we'll want to go into the terminal and install Phaser with npm I Phaser. After Phaser is installed, we'll have to go into the tsconfig and we'll have to configure our TypeScript compiler to work with Phaser. To do this, we're going to change the modular type to AMD. Next, we're going to go into lib and we're going to add script host. Next, let's try to run the project. In the terminal, type npm start. Now this can take a little bit of time, so we'll come back once it's ready. Once your project has compiled successfully, click the link in the output window. It should be localhost 4200. Open that page in a new browser. This is the content your project is currently serving. It's actually found in app.component.html. This is the default HTML that Angular actually puts in your project. So we're going to go back and remove this HTML and just put in simply hello world. Alright, so open app.component.html, select all, and delete. Then type in the words hello world. This is going to help us differentiate what is loading from Angular and displaying on the screen versus what is inside of the Phaser scene that we're going to create. Let's go into app component. We're going to implement after view init. We're going to use the after view init function to actually create our game scene after the view initializes. We've also imported Phaser at the top so we can use it as a library. Next, we're going to create a new class called Isometric Scene. To do this, we're going to navigate from the root of the project into the app folder, and we're going to type ng for generate, class, and isometric scene. Our new isometric scene class is going to extend phaser.scene. Phaser.scene provides a couple lifecycle hooks, one of them being preload and the other one being onCreate. So preload is used to actually load different image resources that you have, and create actually creates the game objects and adds them to your scene. So for each of these two methods, we're going to add in a console log just to output on preload and on create, just so we can make sure that these methods are being called in our scene lifecycle. We're also going to create a scene config object. This is going to have some properties that is needed to actually run the scene in Phaser. So we have some attributes like the width and height of the scene and the class that the actual scene is going to be utilizing, which is our isometric scene. So in our app component, when we create our Phaser scene, we're going to use that scene config. So let's go into ng after view init in the app component.ts file, and in there we're going to create a new Phaser game object, and we're going to pass isometric scene.sceneconfig to the constructor. Then you'll want to save and rerun your project. Go to the localhost page and you should see a black square. That is your scene loading into Phaser on the page. So now that you can display your scene onto your web page, we want to add a game object to your scene. We're going to add a simple label that says hello world. To do this, let's create a variable called text, and we'll set it to hello from scene. Then we'll add a new text game object to your scene, and we'll put the coordinates as 0, 0, so it shows at the top left of your scene. Save and run the project. You should see hello from scene within the black square on your web page. This is our new label displaying inside of your scene. Next, we'll go through how to actually add an image to your scene. So within the assets folder, I've added house.png. What we'll want to do is load the house image on preload, right? Because you have to load the images or static resources on preload. Then on create, we'll add the house as an image object to our scene. So after doing so, save, reload the page. You should see the house at coordinate 150 by 150 on the top left. And there you go. We've loaded a house image that has an isometric perspective. Also in the console logs, we can see our output. For the console.log, we added in on preload and on create. If there's an issue with your project loading the scene, maybe one of those methods were spelled incorrectly or aren't being called properly. This is the end of our tutorial. In the next episode, you'll be able to render an isometric tile map in your Phaser scene. This will bring you one step closer to creating a sort of clone of the popular Civilization game that we all love. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Click subscribe if you want to be notified when the next episode in the series will be ready. The next episode will involve downloading Tiled, a map editor, importing the maps into our Phaser scene, and building our tile map grid and displaying it within our scene. Stay tuned.